Hey there, welcome to the Gyro Step Podcast Network. We're here to talk about a very important day that happened 1 year ago today. The Bucks won their first NBA championship in 50 years, and we're going to discuss the 2021 NBA Finals, obviously capped off by Giannis dropping 50 points to win Game 6 in Milwaukee. Bucks in 6 forever. That's for the culture. We are here to talk about this championship that we will be talking about forever. Whether they win more or not, I think this one will always have a very, very special place in all of our hearts. So we got the full house, myself, Ti Windisch, my co-host Rohan Katti, and the Win in 6 crew, Jordan Treske, Adam McGee. My favorite question, although it's not quite as fun to ask today as it was a year ago today. Fellas, how's it going?
Doing great. We get to talk about the championship, even though, like you just said, it might not be as good as it was in the moment. It's still a good thing. It's still a good thing because we get to carry these memories with us forever. That is the best part about this. You get to re-experience those feelings of joy, of adulation, just constantly. And I'm glad we're doing this. So I'm doing great, Ty.
Jordan, go on. You can go first.
What a stare down there between Adam. If you're not watching the YouTube, that was intense.
I'm doing well. We have relived through memory lane. It's also weird to think it's already a year, or for it to actually have happened, because some of it doesn't actually feel real. But yeah, it is. It's feels like yesterday, but it also feels, again, I don't know. It's just out of time. It's out of time, and it's just I instantly transport into where I was when all these great things happen, and bad things, because there's, of course, bad things that happened along the way.
Jordan, are you high?
No. I'm not.
The traffic to the Def Leppard concert got to him.
Did you roll the windows down on the way by or something?
Yeah.
I'm doing great. I don't know how to follow up everything that's happened so far, honestly, but always happy to talk about the Bucks winning an NBA championship. Been doing some revisiting today in preparation for this, and I know we'd always be like, yeah, we'll never forget how special it is. I kind of think I forgot how special it was and how rare it is and may continue to be throughout the past year. There's probably elements of it that get taken for granted, that we forget just how it felt and how unlikely it was at the time. Maybe we'll talk some more about that later. How unlikely we all felt it was. We're all through this year. It's like they're the champs, so we're like, oh, well, they should go and contend to be the champs again. That was not, even though they're a really great team, the feeling the whole way through the journey to being champions. So given how the season finished and obviously the disappointment there and Chris's injury, and looking back on that, having that season of separation between it, I think I'm trying to remember just how unlikely it is, just how weird the NBA is and how you can't control when these things go your way. And for that reason, it being all the more special that they actually did it. Things broke their way, they took advantage. And unlike so many teams who the chance comes up, they don't do it. And then, hey, you could be waiting 20, 30, 40, or as we well know, 50 years. The Bucks went and did it, and we'll always have that. Hopefully we'll have much more, but we'll always have that.
Yeah, the one note I think probably for this whole podcast, at least most of it, on the 2022 Bucks team is it does kind of put it in perspective, the time crunch that this whole past season was, because, you know, we are a month and a day, actually more than that, over a month from the 22 finals concluding to hit the 1 year marker on the Bucks winning it all, which just shows you how much basketball they played. 82 games and then playoffs all in like 11 months of the last finals wrapping up, which is just kind of a ridiculous and unnecessary thing to do. They really didn't have to do that, but they did. I guess we're back on track and we played 82. Owners feeling good about it, I suppose. But I do think what's been cool about this lead up, I suppose, to the day itself has been a few days now where it's like, oh, it's now been exactly 1 year since Giannis blocks Ayton. And a couple days it's been 1 year since the Valley Oop. And I agree with you, Adam. I went back. I listened to most of our pod right after, heard myself yelling a whole lot. All the vibes were immaculate, though, except if your name is CJ McCollum or James Harden. And if you haven't listened to that pod in a while or ever, 1-6, our podcast right after they won the title on YouTube and on the pod feed, it's worth listening back to. It brought back a lot of memories. But rewatching some of those highlights, I think that's a good place to start on like the improbability of it all. Some of the plays that went in, the necessary plays for the Bucks to win the finals. Like, this wasn't the game is out of hand. This wasn't the first quarter. 2 clutch time fourth quarter plays that just should have like not even been possible were it not for Giannis and also Drew Holiday and a little bit PJ Tucker and everyone in a way. But my God, watching the block and the alley-oop over and over and over again, I kind of took a break for a while, but now getting back into it, thinking that it's been a year, it was like, I was just like getting emotional watching these plays. Like, oh my God, he really did this. Like, it's like better than a movie. Like we talked about Rise a couple weeks ago, and that obviously was the rest of his story, which is even better than this. But the story of the Bucks finals really is like, you could not write it any better how this worked out for Milwaukee.
You really can. I mean, I think we did a good job in the time, not to pat ourselves on the back, of like recognizing the gravity of the moment, recognizing like the storybook elements of the moment. Because it like you just said, Ty, it truly did feel that way. Like, we weren't as invested in this year's finals. Like, obviously, like that's a bias we're going to recognize up front. But can you say there were as many iconic moments in this year's finals compared to last year's finals?
No.
Anyone? No. You can't say that.
That's not just going to be a this year thing either. Like, I know we did touch on that in the moment and then in the weeks after it last year. The Bucks got 2 all-time NBA Finals plays.
Yeah.
Like, the sunblock and the alley-oop are not just plays that are like right at the center of Bucks history forever. They are like signature NBA Finals plays. You're going to struggle to come up with 2 plays as remarkable as that. There are obviously some, and we remember them, but if you're to go back to the last 10, 15 years, the list is not super long in terms of what's more memorable or what were better plays. Maybe the Bucks of this all will make some of it less memorable than, for example, Ray Allen's 3-pointer or obviously LeBron's chase down.
Those are like the other 2 up
shot.
there.
Yeah. That's
Kyrie's
the only finals.
They're the
only
ones.
Finals I can remember. Yeah. That's the only finals I can remember with 2 iconic shots. Or 2 iconic plays, I should say.
Yeah, because even other like you get some playoff moments.
Yeah, Kawhi's shot, but that's the
Kawhi's
semis,
shot,
not the finals.
Dame's
yeah,
first round buzzer beater. Like these are not the finals. To the point, you're not stringing these together in back-to-back games in the finals. Like, that's the thing that I think forever in the day Bucks fans will have to remember. But every year when it comes around, you'll be like, oh, sure, that was cool, but it wasn't as good as the alley-oop.
Yeah, I feel like
the sunblock, just because I'm still on that particular side of the debate.
I'll be forever alley-oop, but I think there's no. I shared this. I think we don't need to argue about it. I think you can obviously have your take, but their consensus the best 2 plays in Bucks history. Sorry, Kareem 74 skyhook. If they had won, maybe that would be up there. I don't know. It's kind of just like, not to take it away, it's kind of just like the thing Kareem did all the time, he did again. It's still cool. I don't want to take anything away from Kareem's greatness, but
I think it's if they win, a whole different story.
It's a combo at least.
The timing of it is also a little bit different. I mean, alley-oop was late in the game. Alley-oop was kind of a dagger. But hey, these are good conversations to have, which is probably part of what we'll reflect on here, what we reflected on a year ago. It's like, when you think of the kind of things we'd had to talk about in the history of both of our podcasts and our collective time covering the Bucks across all kind of mediums, to get to a point where it's like, what's better? Is it this play from the finals when the Bucks won the championship, or this play from the finals when the Bucks won the championship? That's a very nice spot for us to be in.
So I think, should we just share some of our fondest and favorite memories and just go around for a little bit here? Or is there anything else we should discuss before we get right into memory? Or maybe let's start off with, what's something you didn't remember until either listening to the old pod or seeing some of the highlights or digging back in this week? If there's anything that stands out that you're like, oh yeah. For me, it was, I didn't remember Pat was pretty bad in Game 6. It's like
you refused to talk about the Rafters agenda.
I know.
On the championship podcast.
I didn't want to talk about it. He wasn't good. Which I mean, you can only be good. So, and he had 8 assists and 8 rebounds and an assist. But it was 0 for 4 from 3. Had 2 turnovers, 2 fouls. By far a team low, minus 21. That's I totally glossed it over, and that's one. If the series goes the other way, that's not something you probably can gloss over as easy. And Pat's a role player; you can't expect him to be great every single game. But I'd totally forgotten that until I was listening. I was like, "Really? Oh yeah."
I forgot in what is it, Game 5? Yeah, I think it was Game 5. The Suns shot 55.2% from the field, 68.4% from 3. And 90.9% from the free throw line, and lost. They shot 100% from 3 in the fourth quarter of that game, and they lost. Ridiculous.
And they kept up in the rebound battle too. That game is so drunk.
They made more threes, and they made more points in the paint than the Bucks, and still lost.
The Drew and Chris game. I kind of forgot that part.
It was a mid-range game. It was a mid-range game for the Bucks.
Those two having nearly 60 absolutely rules.
I think I definitely forgot that Giannis dropped 42 in Game 2. I think that's where going through all this is that like we kind of, I mean, it's more fun to acknowledge it this way when things turn for the better in the series, but it's like those first 2 games obviously exist, and the context around Giannis actually playing gets lost on it a year later. But I mean, it'd be interesting to listen back to that specific point in the series and our pod. But I think I was still like in a very like, oh, like it's great that they're still here mode. And then when they win Game 3, it's like, oh, let's actually like win the series. That'd be great if they can win a title.
Game 2 was the Chris and Drew laughing after, and they both played bad.
That is right.
Was super mad, right? That became iconic, and again, one of those things.
Not everyone. Everyone wasn't super mad. I wasn't.
Okay,
super mad.
A lot of people were super. Yeah, of course. I didn't like it.
I don't think I knew it happened until after the finals.
Same.
Because I did not watch any press conference stuff.
How unlike you, Jordan. Maybe that's...
I think it was also because of work.
That's also true. My thing that I forgot, I was actually, until I listened back to our podcast, is how underspoken about it is, like in a comparative sense, that Ti is the same age as Giannis.
It's something that I don't like to think about very often, to be honest with you, but it is true.
It's a deep cut, but Ti did make the point of saying that. I still, a year later, don't fully understand why what he was getting at with
how underaccomplished I felt in comparison. It was just another way to talk about how much Giannis has done.
You know what's funny about that? Because I also said my age on that podcast, and then 2 people I knew listened to that podcast, and they thought I was older than them that entire time until they listened to that podcast. And I was like, great, I really messed this up.
So did 3 people who were on the podcast with you, Rohan.
Yes.
So
no, you guys didn't think I was older than you guys, though.
What?
The people listening thought
they thought you were like in your 30s?
Oh.
Yeah. No, the people listening thought I was older than them.
I have a bonus, by the way. I forgot because I watched the whole end of game, was it 4? Yeah. And I had forgotten that after the Ayton block, it's like basically it looked like Chris was going to kind of ice the game twice in a row and miss both. And it got really nervy until Chris Paul kind of just fell over. And then the Bucks like rebounded and shot free throws and won it. But it's one of those two. I feel like I get the glossy. And I was like, oh, Chris probably hits one of his signature daggers here and then doesn't, and then gets another chance and then doesn't. And then later gets, what was that? Like Devin Booker's 19th foul that isn't called when he makes the layup in transition after Chris Paul's turnover. Like, there's so many little things. I was like, oh, I totally forgot. We were fuming mad about Devin Booker not getting called for anything. And that was the most egregious of them all.
8 fouls in that game for Devin Booker.
Yeah.
Still, he did not foul out of it.
Incredible. I've got a real one. No disrespect.
Okay, well,
my real one was not you being the same age as Giannis.
Okay, well, I think that's pretty illuminating. But okay, go ahead.
But this one might actually kind of bring us into some of the now in terms of two, and I think it's why it stood out to me. What I'd forgotten is in the post game, in the interviews on the court with the championship trophy and the Finals MVP trophy being presented, that Giannis doesn't really well up. We obviously know he'd been very emotional on the court immediately after the game, but he doesn't well up in the interviews or any of that until he turns to Chris and gives it to Chris. We did it. We fucking did it. And I was just thinking quite a lot about that in terms of Chris being out and even the kind of conversations we were having after the championship, which is these are two guys that have been through it all together. They're essentially their only understanding of playing in the NBA. Chris has some experience outside of that, but it's limited for both guys. It comes through playing with each other and kind of working the game out together. And it did just make me think more about that. One, in terms of how well Giannis did, how close the Bucks were to beating the Celtics, and then who knows what beyond that, in spite of Chris being out, but also just, I don't know, something beyond the X's and O's and something that isn't necessarily as apparent as kind of like, obviously they don't have a brothers Giannis Thanasis relationship, and there are other guys on the team. We know Giannis is really close with Pat and they've worked out for all the years. Like him and Chris don't have that, but they have something that is kind of a deeper connection in a basketball sense that is just completely essential to how the Bucks operate. And we know how much they missed Chris because they go out to the Celtics in the second round. But at the same time, I don't think we can fully tap into just how much Giannis misses Chris when he's not out there.
Crazy. This upcoming season will be their 10th year playing together.
Wow.
I was just thinking too, like, I mean, we know what it is. Like, there's not a lot of Bucks players in history that have played that long together. And obviously they're approaching like games appearances and all that stuff. To have two players like that share essentially the same history outside of,
there's no one notable. There's no one notable who's played together that long in Bucks. I mean, it's Sidney Moncrief and someone maybe.
Marcus.
No, they didn't play together that long.
Did Sid get to 10 years though? Was that not right when his knee got bad and he went to the Hawks and then he ends up coming back, I think. So he has 10 seasons with the Bucks. Remember, Sidney retired pretty young. I don't think even he gets that. So I don't know if there is someone from that.
Yeah, he got 10 years.
He played 10 exactly before. Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't know. I'm like a second player that significant the whole time. I doubt. I mean, I'll check quick. I don't think there was anyone who would
expand it beyond the Bucks and Bucks history.
Yeah.
Recent.
Yeah.
I mean, since Jordan and Pippen, Stockton, Malone, that era
Warriors, the Warriors
it's
guys.
The Warriors.
It's the Warriors.
Yeah.
That's kind of it, though, right? That would have got 10 years.
It really is. It's just
Dave and CJ may not even CJ.
That.
No.
Yeah.
No.
That would have been maybe the second closest. But yeah.
Yeah, it's just.
Anything you want to say about CJ, bro?
I'm not going to say it again. Everyone can go back and listen to that. I forgot about that until I re-listened to it. Sorry, CJ. You seem like a decent person, but I had to do it to you.
That's the president of the MBPA to you, bro.
Oh, shoot. Whatever, it's fine. No one tweeted CJ, please. But yeah, it's Giannis and Chris. They're creating their own mark in not just Bucks history. They've been creating their own mark in Bucks history, but in terms of the greater NBA history. Like you said, Adam, maybe the Bucks of this aren't going to have it remembered as much for a lot of reasons, but they should be, because they're doing things that have never been done, that are in the rarefied air. And Giannis and Chris they've been a part of it. They're going to be a part of it for a long time. I think both of these players wants to be Bucks for life. They're both getting their jerseys up as soon as they can. Same with Pat, and Brooke Lopez might as well. But yeah, it's rarefied air.
Might as well. There's some Brooke stuff I've got to interrogate.
Might as well say it. Might as well say it.
There's a few pods in our own arrow.
No.
I found a graph from 2015. There's
Yes, thank you for
basically
that.
there's one group of players we forgot, the Duncan Spurs guys. All
Of course.
played a bajillion games with each other. And then the other one I really wouldn't have expected, Derek Fisher and Kobe they played like 850 games together.
That's
They're
right.
like 10 years though.
That's across 2 spans too. Because
If they
Fisher-
played 850
Yeah, it
regular
must have
season
been.
games,
Yeah.
and it is.
It's regular season only. Yeah, so Giannis, for
Oh, wow.
reference, has only played like 656 total regular season games. So yeah, that's a lot of games together. Giannis and Chris would probably be around the bottom of this chart. Dr. J and Mo Cheeks played 651 together. So probably a little below that, I would guess, with missed games for them both. But
a little less cheeks.
yeah, less Cheeks. But certainly, I mean, I think we all hope.
Rohan laughing at Mo Cheeks just cracked me.
Yeah,
up. It's
I
like,
can already see the smile on Rohan's face when you said that.
No, don't try to turn this on me. Jordan made the joke. Come on.
you were laughing before the joke.
Yeah,
We could check the tape.
We talked about
you wanted
potential
more of it.
extensions and stuff previously, but I think ignoring all those discussions now with the offseason front office stuff, I think we'd all be thrilled if Giannis and Chris got near the top of that list and ended up playing a couple hundred more games together. There's obviously a lot of different thoughts about Chris Middleton, but we saw what a team with him, Giannis, and Drew Holiday can do 1 year ago.
Still haven't lost a series together.
That's right. We have our Celtics stat, the 08 Celtics guys, whatever theirs is. I don't remember what their version is, but ours
It's the
is
same thing. They haven't lost a series.
and they're all
Yeah, because
healthy
of
or
injury.
whatever. But I think theirs is all. I think theirs is all starters. We can just do Chris Giannis, Drew.
No, because KG got hurt the next
Oh yeah, whatever. Let's not talk about the
There
Celtics.
is something-
They talk about themselves enough.
Yeah, there is something, and obviously we're nowhere near this too, but it is kind of, it's interesting to think about just when you're having that kind of conversation about Giannis and Chris as a pairing and the kind of legacy of it all. And we know the ages that kind of Chris is getting to and Drew is getting to, and it is going to be something that Bucks fans are going to have to think about one way or another in the next few years, because if the team doesn't perform to a certain level, there will be plenty of people who very pragmatically will be like, you got to trade Chris, you got to make this move, got to keep contending in Giannis's prime. Those moves that you then make don't always necessarily work out, though. And there is something to the way a lot of those teams kind of age gracefully. I mean, the Spurs kind of did that. Duncan Spurs, they were not year in, year out looking like a title contender, but they were a really tough out in the West who could have put a run together if things broke their way at any time. And there is something to be said for that. This is the really kind of, I don't know, downbeat and negative thing that obviously we don't want to view the Bucks next few years in the prism of, oh, they're not going to get another one of these. But we're all also very, very in tune with that is entirely possible. That's what made this so special to begin with, is it's not easy to get one. And it's something I think more and more about as you see just on Twitter and people are like, oh, you could trade Chris for this or that. It's like, is that the thing that 2 or 3 years from now will be fun to watch? And does it necessarily get you your next championship? All of that is really difficult, but how special this team is and how special it's going to be in people's memories long term. There's part of it that even as they get older, I personally would be very wary of kind of wishing it away, even in pursuit of something that in theory is better, because like, what are we chasing? This is as good as it gets.
Yeah,
championship
always
is the
greener.
pinnacle. Yeah, and again, Bucks history is the blueprint. If you want to look to something and be like, oh, wouldn't it be nice to just have that for a little bit longer and to at least be able to watch those guys and treasure those guys and bask in the memories like we're doing now? Like, that gets harder to do if you're watching, I don't know, some tier 2 all-star who's younger than Chris Middleton, but doesn't necessarily get you to the level you want to be and hasn't already got kind of all the positive memories and all the credit in the bank that Chris Middleton has. It's something that obviously in the years ahead we'll have to talk about a whole lot more, and it's not that fun to consider. But I do just think of it, even in watching back, as you say, when highlights come up, like the first celebration in Game 6, the game is still going. There's like 40 seconds to go, and the Bucks now have got it. Is Giannis and PJ going, and you see that, and you're like, damn it, wouldn't it be great if PJ was still on the team? Because aside from all the things that we talked about in the playoffs and all season long and last offseason about his actual value as a player and his utility, he's also just one of those guys, you know, all of the we dogs. That's a real part of the story. That's something that people are going to remember for a much longer time. And the fact that he was a guy that was a rental for a few months, that's all there was him. It's kind of sad.
He essentially played 3 months because he was out for a good 3 weeks after getting traded here. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was not that long.
I don't know what my general point here is, other than like treasure the guys who were part of his team. And I guess to bring that up to what we've seen the past couple of weeks, like Pat getting extended, Bobby getting extended, all of that is good news. And I think something I mentioned on one of the podcasts after that is that's a cool thing for people like young kids who were watching the Bucks and saw the Bucks win a championship, and they saw Pat Connaughton and Bobby Portis. Their attention may have been on Giannis and Drew and Chris, but those guys were there too. And the fact that they will get to continue to watch the team, they'll get to develop their fandom watching the team with those guys still there. I think that only makes the championship experience all the more special. If those guys get to stay, they get to build legacies, they get to really kind of make Milwaukee home in a way that is real and not just lip service. Like, PJ means it when he talks with the love he got from Milwaukee and how special that time was for him. But at the same time, he never really got to feel it. Like, he never got to come back as a champion, as a Buck, and that kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Bring back PJ.
It's a little late now, Rohan.
They got tradable salaries.
His next deal when he's 40, is it?
He's got tradable salaries. That's all I'm saying.
There are indeed tradable salaries.
He fits perfectly into a Grayson Allen and Jordan Morris.
I love. Granted, only one of the names that you mentioned were on the championship team, but Adam's point is like, treasure these guys, treasure that they're on this team. And it's like tradables. It's just the instant.
Yeah, but notice how Rohan was like, you know who wasn't on that team? Grayson Allen.
Yeah.
I'm saying the
which is also true, and I think probably speaks to a lot of our feelings on Grayson Allen. Even last year, a lot of the conversations like, yeah, you were part of that. You didn't do that, so you don't have the leeway.
You got to go to the White House.
You don't have the equity.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. He did get to go to the White House. That's true.
I also forgot how great Bobby Portis was in Game 6. I remembered. I'm just going to get us right back to the 2021 NBA Finals. Like, I remember that he closed it, right? I remember, like, you know, the Bud, when we yelled about Bud's boldest move ever, which was basically not playing Brook late in that game and going with Bobby. I think Rohan was pulling up the numbers. Bobby played like a little over 11 minutes. Brook played like a minute in the fourth quarter of Game 6. And you kind of remember, like, Giannis did everything. He had 50 points and 2 assists. They only scored 105 total, which means he accounted for more than half of the Bucks' production between points and assists, which is very Giannis. You know, Drew struggled a little bit, but he had a lot of assists. Chris had 17 on not great shooting. Kind of forgot Bobby was right there with 16 points, 5 fouls, but no turnovers, 3 rebounds.
Thought he was going to get
block.
Technical, too.
He did get a technical. We thought he was going to get 2 technicals.
Yeah, that's right.
Ejected. Yeah. He blocked Chris Paul from going to the refs, which is still an all-time great moment. The other tech was dumb. And an all-time great moment. He was talking about a forgotten moment. Chris telling Bobby to settle the fuck down after that technical just absolutely ruled. I thought that was actually, I would rank those 3 moments. Bobby pushing Chris Paul out of the way is number 1. Right below that, Chris telling Bobby to settle the fuck down. And then Bobby's high step, honestly not worth the technical.
I wanted to bring this up to you because I just listened to the pod and I was like, this must have just been Ti in the moment. I think that was still in the portion of the pod where you were yelling a lot.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what, I'll forgive. That was a technical. That's fine. It was a really dumb technical, but it's fine. It all worked out well. I have no idea.
Weak finals tech.
Bobby
with the way Devin Booker
who gave the tech? Do we know?
I don't remember.
I don't remember that. Bobby was just short of like running out of the arena and circling back in.
He was doing a Bo Jackson.
It was so exaggerated. It worked out okay, and it got the crowd. That was the whole thing with Bobby all throughout the playoffs, and he was there, still is.
The officials that night were Tony Brothers, Scott Foster, Eric Lewis.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's a Hall of Famer. I don't know who between brothers and
Funny,
Foster.
we've all just decided to just forget that Scott Foster was on the championship closing game against Chris Paul.
Oh yeah, I think it's also important that we remember that this series exposed Chris Paul as a little bitch.
Jesus.
I mean, just like
isn't that a former NBPA president now?
Yeah, no, just in the way that like he.
Anything you want to say about Malcolm Brogdon or Jaylen Brown? Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe Jaylen. We'll see. No, just like he has to be separated. Like Bobby has to block him from going to the official, and I'll never get over him pushing Giannis midair. Never get over that in the Valley. Never get over that. One of the most dangerous things you can do on a basketball court. Just no, I will not apologize for saying.
There goes that Chris Paul.
Exactly. Like I'm not going to apologize because he deserves it.
That's what happens when point guards go through Phoenix, Jordan. They develop this ruthless streak. That's what got into Eric Bledsoe. It might be worth us talking about the Phoenix Suns at this point because they are kind of the revolving doors moment of it all. Is
the first thing on Bud's mind afterward.
Yeah, shout out Bud. Yeah, just want to say Monty Williams and his staff. That's the best. You look at the kind of mess they're in now with how they handle DeAndre Ayton, and now Ayton's back, and they can't trade for KD because Ayton's back, and just a whole lot of stuff going on. You look at the disappointing season they had. That could easily have been the Bucks.
It was the Bucks.
Way. I know, but if it was the Bucks after not just 2018, but then it happens this time, I don't know if you come back from that. I don't know if you can come back from that. That's the thing, that taking this opportunity, like we know this in terms of obviously Giannis and his future, it just buys so much time for everyone. It buys so much goodwill. But you look at the Suns, and the Suns are really good, and that was a really great series. Like I think the Bucks had to play some really great basketball. Rohan referenced the Suns. That was game 5. Their shooting numbers.
Yep.
Like that's tough to shoot like that and lose a game. Although it's kind of on you at a certain point. If you do all of that and you lose a game, you've got to have a really good look at yourself. But I do think that's the kind of the darker part of this. And when you look at, it's like, what does it mean for the Bucks, and what does it mean that like now we can continue year to year to be like, yeah, well, this team, their goal is to win a championship, and they can win a championship. I don't know how much longer the Suns are going to be able to say that, given how things are going there.
Can they say it right now? I mean, so their second best player is 36, 37.
Yeah.
When's the last time he got through a playoffs healthy? Their third best player wants to leave very badly and just spent about a month
the team,
trying to figure out a way out. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, Monty Williams is a great coach. Bud would never throw a player under the bus like he did with Ayton at the end of their playoff series this last round. The Suns' culture is not strong enough. And, the Bucks winning a championship helps, I think, firm everything up after a year. Adam, you're giving me a look. He threw him under the bus.
No, I love that the Suns' culture is not strong enough.
It's not.
Because the implication is, and it's correct, that the Bucks culture is. I wasn't giving you a look. That was a legitimate smirk on my part. I was smirking at the Phoenix Suns.
I mean, a lot of teams.
Remember the guy with the money? Remember the guy with the money? What game was that?
The counting. Remember the counting?
Counting.
Giannis 17 for 19 from free throw in Game 6 might be the most impressive Giannis stat ever, given knowing everything about Giannis. It's right up there. Like, that's insane that he did that still.
And he dropped the mic in the post-game press conference. Like, they say I can't make my free throws.
I freaking made my free throws. I think was his exact quote.
He said I made my free throws and now I'm an NBA champion. I think
He started to censor himself at that point.
Yeah. Listen, he knew in the future he'd need some money for diapers. Didn't want to pick up too many fines coming his way. Probably don't get fined for that. But anyway.
And someone gets fined when it happens on ABC in the presentation, I think. But
FCC comes at you.
Yeah.
But no, that is a perfect Giannis. I think we can bring this back to Giannis, but you can't go out on a game like he had in Game 6. Like you can't improve upon it. You really can't. 50 points, made all his free throws. Just incredible. It'll stand the test of time forever.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I think it's crazy because he can still top it. I mean, he's that great. He's still very young. The Bucks are in a great position to win another championship just because Giannis is there.
Yeah.
I still don't think anything will top it, though. I think it's going to be the first thing that comes to mind.
Well, I think especially too, I think the only thing that could now would be like if he's the center of like a three-peat or something like that. I don't think he could top it with one singular series or one singular moment because of the combination of, the fact that we talked about. I mean, back-to-back-to-back games. I hadn't really even put this together, I guess, realize it in that context, but the sunblock, the Valley-oop, and then his whole performance in Game 6 was back-to-back-to-back games when the Bucks were down 1-2 going into that first one. Game 3, I feel like someday we should just do a whole pod on Game 3. I don't remember much. The Bucks won by a lot. It was the first game back in Milwaukee. Obviously very necessary. Not much sticks out to me about it. I need to go rewatch all of Game 3. But to back-to-back-to-back games do that to basically clinch the finals is just absolutely insane. And also, it's his first championship. Earlier in that same postseason, we got the worst takes ever. The worst franchise player since Andre Drummond was out there, or something like that, which is just a ludicrous thing to say. And
Do you need to tell me off air who said that, or
yeah, so much was questioned about him in the Nets series, and we know what he overcame against Brooklyn, and the whole team did. But the fact, and the Bucks too, the Bucks who hadn't won in 50 years, the Bucks who no one likes to take seriously or care that much or talk that much about, all of those things together, it would take something like ridiculously historic and great. I mean, think of how good he was against Boston until the wheels fell off in Game 7. But I think he had like 44 and 20 and 6 assists in Game 6 against Boston. Like, this is still here, and that's what I was thinking about, Adam, when you mentioned I don't know if they'll ever win another. I still think they will, and it's not as much about the Bucks org, who I think has done a good job recently. It's about that one guy. That's the kind of guy you just bet on to figure it out, which is what happened last year. But yeah, I think, Giannis is it's going to be really hard to top that. But if anyone could find a way, it would be Giannis, who has already done the things people think are not doable so many times over in his life and career.
My only reason for saying that is the season we just seen.
Yeah, it's hard. It's freaking hard.
It's not doubting. I think the Bucks are the best team in the NBA. The Bucks will be the best. They're better than the Warriors. Warriors are the champs. Congratulations to the Warriors. The Bucks are better. If you get everyone healthy, you get those two teams. I'm taking the Bucks. Just getting, as the Warriors themselves know, getting everyone healthy and getting a chance to go and do that, that's not a given. Now, maybe the Warriors are actually a good example to bring up there because it took longer for them to get back there. But guess what? If your guys are good enough, you can get back there even when people are like, oh, the moment has passed. It turns out it hasn't. And that could well be if the Bucks can continue to put competitive teams around Giannis. That might be where you've just got to keep the guys who did it the first time to go back to that point too.
Yep.
And it's they'll find kind of later in their career that they're still good enough and they have the know-how, more important than anything. But to go to your point, it's when you think of Giannis in the 50 and an individual game like that, his career high, I'm guessing at least one person knows his career high off the top of their head.
52?
Yeah, which was the
Sixers?
You're a fucking baby to Ben Simmons.
Yeah.
Talk about a legendary moment.
Very memorable. So he's 2 points off his career high. His career high for free throws made is 19, which he done twice, so he's just 2 off that. And you look at his playoff career highs, I mean, obviously the points is 50. Blocks, he had 5 in that game.
I was going to say, yeah.
Don't talk about that a whole lot. That's his playoff career high. Obviously his playoff career high for free throws made. He literally delivered one of the, it's the best game of his career. There's no doubt about that. But if you're to take the context of it being the closing game in the finals out of it and just look objectively at numbers, it's clear, kind of top 2, top 3 in his entire career. And he produced that when it mattered most. That's not about his ability. That's not about all the, the James Harden, I wish I could, just run and jump and dunk like that.
Be 7 foot.
That's entirely different. That's the thing that says everything about Giannis is the ability to produce that in that moment and to deliver the championship. And we saw in the aftermath everything it meant to him, all of the weight he was carrying with it. Clearly the feeling of just part of why he stayed is that was one of the things that I had forgotten too, which in listening back to our post-championship pod was in his press conference, he made the point of he didn't want to let anyone in Milwaukee down. That was one of his main motivations. He didn't want to disappoint anyone. He didn't want to let anyone in Milwaukee down. Stays, delivers that on the biggest stage. It doesn't get better.
I think one of 3 players who dropped 50 in the finals on the team that won. Only 7 players have done it ever, but I think just Giannis, Bob Pettit, and Michael Jordan did it in a winning effort. The rest, including LeBron's 51 in 2018. Yeah, the 3 GOATs that are commonly cited by people.
That's my personal, NBA Mount Everest. There, the first 3 faces gone up. I don't know if I've decided on the 4th yet.
Maybe we can sneak Kareem in there.
Kareem. Yeah, I think Kareem's good for 4. But yeah, that's the history of basketball right there. Pettit, Jordan, Kareem, Giannis.
Shout out Bob Pettit.
Shout out to Bob the Legend, the OG. I think at one point I said, "Who the F cares about Bob Pettit?" on the post game.
You were both very rude.
It's not that I did. I was pretty rude. To your point about the Warriors, I do think to the angst about the Bucks, quote unquote, running it back, and we can do other pods about that whole discussion and the offseason, and we have also. But like they are a great example for like, hey, if you have like 3 or more players who know how to win championships together and they've proven it, maybe just keep trying it. Maybe just, don't trade Draymond to trade Draymond, right? Like, I think there's a lot of parallels there. I think you look at the Warriors, and it's almost not the same thing, but it's like kind of the same idea as like, oh, I'm worried that Drew and Chris won't be as good. Clay and Draymond weren't nearly as good. And like they found some pieces around it, and they just went and won a title because they have...
You need to keep evolving.
Yeah, well, and because also you just have a guy in the middle that can just say, I'm just going to win it now. And that's Steph, and that's Giannis, too. And I do think...
helped to sign Kevin Durant after your first...
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's been
Yeah,
4 years. It's been 4 years since they won it at all, with or without him. It's been a lot longer since they won without him. But yeah, obviously that'll help, add a couple to the tally for sure. No question there. I mean,
hey, to the Bucks?
I was going to say, maybe we can try it out.
Jordan
Wayne.
Can we mute Rohan every time he does the KD to the Bucks bit?
Jordan Morris still on
I can make his camera smaller. That's about all the power I have right now.
Serge Ibaka.
No. Stop.
Why is that?
Oh, okay.
Very strange signing.
So the 2021 finals. What else is on anyone's mind?
Obviously Chick-fil-A. I think it's just all these things. Yeah, I know my first thing was Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A's on your mind.
But that was the Giannis celebrating with his 50-piece McNuggets. Also, I think he revealed he wanted half lemonade, half Sprite?
Yeah, extra ice, I think.
Yes.
Yep.
Again, all these things they feel very vivid, and it still feels like it did not happen. I don't know why. I think that's maybe just me. But I do think
I don't think it's just you. I honestly don't think that's just you. It's not, and I think the further we get away from it, the more unreal it will feel.
Yeah. In part because I think it's just there's obviously the track of the Bucks being crappy when Giannis and Chris get to the team. Jason Kidd takes over. They have a crazy win improvement. Then everybody learns that Jason Kidd's not the coach, coaches team to championship. And then it's just the steps. And I mean, it was very painful for a lot of those years. Even when you go to the conference finals and think it's this golden runway to a finals berth, because I mean, look at how that championship was decided.
Yep.
And I think everything associated with it, even all the manufactured drama, we could say that now, but when it came down to Giannis's decision, the pandemic, the fact that there's this great season gets disrupted by a worldwide event. Probably
like I know it had stumbled literally just before that, the 2 games before, but what was on track to be the greatest season in Bucks regular history. I've just made a mess of that. The greatest season in Bucks regular season history, to be exact, but yeah, and then a pandemic comes along, and then they're playing in the bubble, and then we have everything that happens from there. Like,
it's still hard to believe that the core of the team made it through what happened in the bubble. That is the kind of thing that breaks cores like very, very easily.
It did. Bledsoe got traded.
We're talking cores. I think
was part of the. I think we forget he was part of the core.
Yeah, he was the part of the core that everybody knew had to be traded for like 2 years at that point.
But it didn't break the core in a like. It would have been a bad idea. But the Bucks could have just been like, "We believe in Eric Bledsoe. We're bringing him back." And I don't think within the team, like I think this point kind of speaks to just the group of guys and what makes them different to a lot of their rivals, where we just see constant tantrums every year if something doesn't go wrong. I mean, we're seeing that situation play out in other notable Eastern Conference teams right now, where it's like, yeah, we got to be traded because of, like, that's just not the personality of the group that the Bucks have. So the Bucks themselves were able to make the choices rather than having their hand forced or having their leverage taken away because the team didn't implode from that, I think would be the way to put it.
I don't know. Thon Maker requested a trade.
That was the year before.
That was the year.
Also,
that was early that season. Tom was like, the best regular season of Bucks history. Get me out of here. I'm not playing.
It would have been such an easy moment for Giannis to leave, though, after the bubble, because I think he would have had 1 year left. It would have been like, superstars with 1 year left can get traded pretty easily these days. He could have just left after the year as well, and then he turns around and signs it. I think, maybe not surprised, but it's one of those things. Like all of us in the fourth quarter of Game 6, we're pretty sure it's going to happen, but until we see it, we're not all the way sure it's going to happen. It's nice to actually see it.
I wonder, did the Bucks being so bad in the bubble help
make it easier to write it off?
Well, it just would have been the lowest possible note, and it would have left a really sour taste if that was how it ended. And if he was like, I want to leave after this, it would have just been like, oh, he's just like everyone else. Maybe he's even worse. And given the way he talks, and again, this idea of he didn't want to let anyone in Milwaukee down, I don't think that kind of would have got past him at all. And just his own personal pride and everything he does, that is not how he would have wanted his Bucks career to finish.
Yeah.
Agreed. I want to go back.
He didn't even play the last game of the bubble, too.
Yep.
That's the other thing. He was out with his sprained ankle.
God, that series sucked.
Yeah.
Game 2 of 2021. Jordan, you talked about this early. We kind of just gloss over the fact that, they were down 0-2, and there was an element. I remember when they won the Hawks series kind of going in, I was like, that's cool. That's great. Are we just going to watch him get killed? Because we didn't know Giannis' status. And he plays Game 1, and he looks pretty good, but he didn't look all the way right at all. And I think Game 2, despite them losing, despite them going down 0-2, I do remember being pretty calm because Giannis puts up 42 and 12. And you're like, okay, Giannis can still do Giannis stuff. Chris and Drew played horrible. But it was like they lost 2 Phoenix games. It's not a killer. I think that was the moment between 2 and 3 where I kind of went, you know what? I think they can actually do this thing. And then obviously things really escalate from there. But it is kind of funny to look at the start of that. And like Game 1, we didn't know if he would play. He does play. He's good, but not anything close to his typical. And then from Game 2, I think that was for me Game 2 when you just see him go and score 42 points. It's like, oh my, first off, that should not be possible given what his knee did. Was it less than a week before that or something? Like a week before that game, whatever. And maybe the Bucks do have a chance. It was it's so crazy to look back now because obviously, we know how it ends. But to think about, like, we probably looked like blind optimists going into Game 3 down 0-2 with Giannis coming off that injury. But I do remember being like, yeah, maybe. If they win this one, there's certainly it's a real series still.
Knowing my mentality, I probably thought I just would want to see them win a home game in the finals. That's probably what it was.
You were just looking to avoid the sweep.
Or just like the happy to be here. Let's take one for the good team, for the good side.
No, I remember feeling that as well. Like you were saying, Ty, right after they won the conference finals. I don't think you were on that pod, Ty.
No, I was horribly sunburnt. It was July 4th. I'll never forget. I watched the game.
Was that your reason for not being on?
No, I was also out of town, but I wouldn't have been able to do a pod. I was delirious. Like, it's the worst sunburn I've ever had in my life. Right. Yeah, it was actual. Like, I remember literally the pod almost would have gotten messed up. Like, the last thing I did before passing out was give Rohan the password for the Zoom to host the call. I remember he needed it. I was like, I need to get this to Rohan. I'm like chugging water. It was bad. So, yeah, where's
Ian's got sunstroke right now, too.
Imagine getting
Rohan, did you get sunstroke during any game of the Nets series, maybe?
Nah, I don't get sunburned. I don't get sunburned. I feel bad, I guess. Yeah, I wonder why.
I was just trying to make a joke about your Nets pod. That's all. Yeah. We brought us down a different road.
But no, Ty, you're speaking about game 2. I want to go back to that real quick. That was a version of Giannis that we hadn't really seen before. Because he was at the point where we talked about Chris and Drew were struggling and they had the picture of them laughing after the game. But it was also like he was in a mode where he's like, give me the ball and get out of the way. And there was like, I don't remember exactly when it was. I'll go find it. If any of you remember, it's just like Chris Middleton or someone had the ball at the top. Giannis is begging for it, goes at Mikal Bridges, goes and gets a bucket. Also, one thing I didn't remember, Mikal Bridges got absolutely abused in this series. He got picked on defensively, which is wild for someone who was up for Defensive Player of the Year. But no, that version of Giannis in game 2, I had that same sort of inkling like, oh, they might have a shot here because this is Giannis being an absolute apex predator. And it was just great to see on the biggest stage.
Kind of foreshadowed game 6 in a lot of ways, that's really what game 6 was. I mean, you watch like the every bucket or like all the Giannis plays from game 6. And so much of it is just like, I mean, Drew ends up with 11 assists. I need to watch through his assists from that game. Because I think a fair bit were like, all right, I'll pass the ball to Giannis in the post and he'll post up for 5 seconds and just make it work. Like, there was not a lot of pretty basketball by that point.
That's not accounting the shooting fouls that got him to the free throw line. Right. That's the other thing, too. Like, I have not watched game 6 in its entirety. I have watched Giannis's, like, performance of it. It's not very long because a lot of it's at the free throw line and it's not really exciting to watch free throws after the fact. Game 6 is not a pretty watch after probably the first quarter. It's a slog.
No, the first quarter was one of the ugliest things I've ever seen.
Yeah, but they at least were winning. It was when it was turning. It's like, oh.
Honestly, the first 6 minutes, neither team like wanted to be there. They were so afraid of the moments. Yeah. And I remember, like, as if everyone else wasn't nervous enough in Milwaukee and Phoenix watching, it made it so much worse. That's my memory. I remember we did our first Twitter space at halftime of that game. And I was like,
yeah,
there is no place I want to be less than this right now. I'm going through it. We're on Twitter spaces and Ty's like, oh, you feeling good about it? I'm like, just Ty, go away. This is the content time. It was very stressful.
Giannis shot 61% during the finals, 61.8% from the field.
It's pretty good.
It's not bad. I mean,
no, it's not. It's not bad at all.
What was his 3-point shooting percentage?
20. He was 3 for 15.
I forgot there was one of those in game 6. There's a made three in there. I kind of yeah. Giannis shoots 61.8% for the finals. Again, game 1 didn't look like he was really able to move properly. 35.2 points, 13.2 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 combined steals and blocks per game.
He shot 67.5% on twos during the finals.
And I think one of my favorite parts is like Jay Crowder was a very good Giannis kind of like helper tertiary defender earlier. And earlier in their careers, Ayton was one of the better Giannis one-on-one. Before the Suns got good,
he still is.
Yeah,
even those that was a big thing. That was a big thing during those 2 games against the Suns that season. Because remember that I believe they lost to the Suns by 1 in both games. One was like the Giannis missed game winner that like Devin Booker said, "Oh, we're gonna have if that's the shot that they're gonna drop, at the end of the game." We're going to give that to him 100 times out of 100 or something, paraphrasing like that. And then there was some crazy shooting foul, maybe to Jay Crowder that PJ like got in his airspace. It was for the home game. Like those games were probably one of the more memorable of that season, in large part because of how they ended. But I've even from Aiden's rookie year, like he has always really defended Giannis. He's had trouble with guys like Hassan Whiteside. Those are big, thick dudes that just are long and just put up their arms. I'm aware of
they're
what
mobile.
I just meant.
They're mobile. I'm going to help you power through. They're pretty
Thank
mobile
you.
too. That's
True
the
big
other thing.
guys, Jordan. True big guys.
True big
Big
guys
who can move. You're exactly right. I just looked it up. They lost both of their games against Phoenix that season by 1 point. Giannis did have 47 and 11 in one of them. So some track record of success there against Phoenix for Giannis at least. But yeah, I do think it's. I had someone tell me on Twitter, or just say on Twitter at some point this past year, like, oh, it's great that Giannis beat the Suns, but nobody on the Suns was really geared to defend him, like whatever team. And it's like, yeah, they were. He's just better. Like it's how this works. It's like saying, yeah, if only some of the guys on the teams Jordan played in the finals were geared to defend him. They were, but also in a sense, no one is geared to defend these guys. That's why they are those guys.
Yeah. Spider on Mount Rushmore with Bob Pettit.
Exactly. Do we have anything else sticking out? I think overall, it's just like
I've got some props. I believe Jordan might have a prop too.
Going.
But I've got this is where are we? There we go. Yep. This is courtesy of Mr. Jordan Treske and all the other fine folks in this call who sent me a package of all sorts
mostly
of
Jordan. Shout out Jordan.
Mostly Jordan. Wisconsin team gifts. This is the paper from the day after.
Jordan's got that one. It looks so
Jordan's
cool.
got the really good stuff. He's got the physical ticket, which, you know, I think Jordan's the only person on the planet who has a physical ticket. So Jordan will facilitate any and all requests for people who want to get their e-tickets turned into physical tickets. Right, Jordan?
Yes. Yes, you can contact me at yeah, I was at a finals game. Never thought I would ever be at a finals game.
A finals game with the sunblock of all finals games.
Yeah, and I think my reaction was like, I thought Giannis didn't play all that well, and then he just pulled that out of his rear end.
Keister.
Yeah, and it's like,
I honestly completely forgot you were there for the sunblock.
I know, yeah.
That's amazing, Jordan. Congratulations.
Thank you. I worked very hard for us. No, I just I think too all of the steps that they had to take, and just the weird. Again, I had to say this because I am obsessed with Bucks history, and it's them winning a title has also led me down a rabbit hole that I'd never anticipated going down, and has probably changed how I view the Bucks and fandom in itself too, I guess.
Wow.
And your life?
Definitely my life, yes. It has changed it in a weird way that I don't really understand, but I live it. But the fact that it's the Suns, it's this team, they don't they play, I mean, like, it goes back to Kareem.
Yep.
It's the Hawks. They played in Milwaukee and they were terrible for 4 years and leave. They go to St. Louis and then they go to Atlanta. Like all those like little like tie-ins, and of course the Hawks and Giannis too. Like that's another thing. Like there's all these little like wrinkles that are just like, why? How does it happen that? But yeah, of course, Bud too. Bucks.
Sorry.
How does it? It's still kind of weird. Just all these like tie-ins that just feel like these little Easter eggs that you find in like, I don't know, like a Marvel movie, or these like long series or very multiverse shows.
Game of Thrones, like
yeah,
you
and it's
like 5 books ago we talked about this for 2 pages. Now it comes up again.
Yeah, and that's condensed in this 2-month long playoff run, not even. That just like kept happening over and over again. The fact that they walloped the Heat at not even a year after just getting demolished by them. Like it's just all these things.
PJ Tucker beating every other member of his Houston Rockets starting lineup.
Yes, yeah, that's another thing.
Great one. Yeah,
there was just all those things that just like add up to where we are now, and just like all that happened, and it doesn't still make sense, but it happened, kind of thing.
And now we all get an A on the group project talking about it.
Jeff Teague.
Jeff Teague. Yes.
Teague, NBA champion, just decided to go be a scout. He's done. Shout out to Jeff Teague.
Honestly, there's no better way.
Game 6. He had points in Game 6, the Jeff Teague game.
Of the conference finals.
Conference finals.
Multiple points.
Yes.
They wouldn't have got there without it.
They wouldn't have. Jeff Teague, yeah. You have to contribute somewhat to get a grade on the group project. Otherwise, you just get you fail because you didn't participate. Your group.
I've got one last thing. I'm gonna cut Rohan off here because
please do.
I much prefer something you said a year ago, Rohan.
Oh boy.
Which is genuinely. This is genuine heartfelt. I watched back in preparation our post-championship pod, and a lot of it is a mess. We're encouraging you to go listen. There's some of it we've just watched the Bucks in the championship. We're very excited. It may not be our finest podcasting, but I do think there's a lot of really good stuff in there, particularly on the back half, and particularly when people start to talk about their own journeys, which this is the self-indulgent part, and why this mattered, what it meant to them. And in that, there's an excerpt of Rohan speaking, which is probably one of my favorite. Like, it's one of the best quotes from our entire GSPN time, the Gyro Step before that. So I don't know if Rohan looks nervous. He has no idea where this is going. I don't know if anyone else does. So I'll give you the quote. Rohan, on that faithful podcast, said, "It's easy to fall in love with main characters if it's easy to relate to them. And it's really, really cool and inspirational to see a funny kid with the funny name go out there and do the fucking thing. It makes you think that anything's possible." And I watched that back, and I remember it at the time. I was that close. You can go watch it on YouTube to just becoming like a blubbering mess on YouTube right at the time. And I still remember it because that's a moment where it's like, yeah, that's where it hits. We were doing a podcast, we were talking about it, and I don't think it had kind of set in like what it means to people. So shout out to Rohan. That's one of my favorite moments in the history of the pod.
That is a very good quote. Thank you.
Did you just thank him for your good quote?
That's the most Ti Windisch move you've ever had.
I just remember I still have
Jordan still has the wine that he showed us.
I drank from that night.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah.
Make sure you're watching on YouTube, by the way.
Yeah.
Do both. Cook the books.
My new goal is to have a quote good enough for Adam to read it a year later. That's sick. It was a great quote, though. The quote deserved it.
We might have to clip that and put that out.
The Bucks might need to win a championship for you, Ti, to get yours.
Yeah. I think they should.
Rohan, like Giannis, he stepped up to the moment. He elevated his game for the biggest moment. That's the thing.
I will say, I think it would be great if they win another championship.
Yeah, hot take.
That'd be very great. I don't know if it would. I think it would be. We would obviously reflect and be joyous, all that stuff. I think the fact that the way that it happened and all of the surrounding things, and even just like, even now, like I live in Milwaukee, and it's still a very huge source of pride. And there's not a lot of things that can do that now, really. Like that, you know what I mean? Like, not to get all, I don't know, but it's just like, there's just not that kind of unifying thing that could bring things together or have like commonalities between people that you just don't know. Yeah. But if you see someone wearing a Bucks championship hat or whatever,
hey, go Bucks.
And yeah, that kind of thing that happened, and it just, it's a bond that you share because you saw it, and that stuff is just going to exist for the rest of time, or for how long we're on this earth.
I hate to tell you, Ti, Jordan is the leader in the clubhouse for the quote that I read a year.
Yeah, that's a great one. You can't win them all. Sometimes you're Pat Connaughton, you have a great series, but maybe you don't cap it off the greatest. Life goes on, and now Pat is more Raptors bound than ever. If you see someone in Bucks gear, or you just see Rohan and know him to be a Bucks fan, but obviously he won't be wearing Bucks gear because he doesn't do that. But or someone in Bucks gear or Rohan, you can reminisce on the championship with. I think the only way I could see one surpassing this is, and we'll take it, I guess, back to the Warriors again. The team that won last is kind of always on your mind. It's like the first one, and then you don't want to say the last one. You don't know if their window is actually done. We thought it was, and clearly it wasn't. But like one after some real one when it seems like you're done, and if you can come back again. I think every Warriors fan would agree 22 and 15 in some order are the best two, and then the KD ones, it's like, yeah, sure, whatever. It's different, but I think something like that, maybe, maybe
like
if it seems
the 14 Spurs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
yep.
You need some kind of time.
Yeah,
in between to when you thought your title window was gone, or
at least everyone outside of the building did, right? Everybody outside of your building is like, yeah, they're not going to do it. If the Bucks can have, and hopefully there's a bunch more, and then we can get one like that. But
that was going to be my counterpoint.
Yeah,
like if they win it next year, then the joy comes from a completely different thing.
Oh yeah, we're going to enjoy all 2 years.
They've got two exactly.
Yeah,
yeah. Let's not get too picky, but there is that is, I think, the fun thing about a championship is you will always find a way to spin it, and in the moment you'll always like, this is the best one. It takes real time and distance to actually work that out and make that decision.
Yeah,
but I think any championship in the now, everyone's this is the best one, and it's perfect for whatever reasons happen to come up in that moment. I don't know if there'll ever be one quite a storybook.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That goes to Jordan's point in going through all of the things that kind of just came around with historical relevance, things that had kind of cropped up along the journey for so many figures. Like I mentioned Bud when Jordan was saying that. Remember Bud being lifted up by Vin Baker? Remember that amazing photo after they beat the Hawks in Atlanta? And you think of how that went down for Bud, and it's like stuff like that. We don't think a whole lot about that because that's an individual Bud moment. Of course, I think a lot about that. But that's really cool. And it was just a journey. PJs, as we touched on, that was filled with so many bits of that, so many things that meant so much collectively for the team, conquering the Heat in the way that they did, and getting past that. The only thing that was missing, would be the sweetest to me, and I think the Raptors suck, so I don't think this is possible. Let's get one where they can sweep the Raptors in the conference finals. That's the only thing on the list. If we're checking off all of these old nemesis.
Give us Kawhi in the finals.
Or there we go. Now you're talking. Let's get the new season started. And let's
avenge that summer league loss.
Let's not talk about that one.
We talked about Giannis, all the historical category he put himself in. There's 35 coaches ever who have won a title. Shout out to Bud for being one of them. There's not many because a couple guys are a little greedy with a lot of them to themselves. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty cool.
And he still will not get the respect he deserves. It happens.
Should have played Javon Carter.
Yeah.
Honestly, with Bud at this point.
He should. I agree completely. Yes,
yeah, he should have.
The point I was going to make, which has just been proven, is I think if Bud won a second, he still wouldn't get the respect he deserves. Just people have long decided how they're going to feel about that. That's fine.
He's not going to be perfect.
Cares.
He's not going to be perfect, but he's good enough, clearly.
Who is? Yeah. Who is?
No,
Giannis. Giannis is perfect.
Giannis is not a coach, and we've seen him as a GM for All-Star games.
Oh God! If KD goes west, Giannis is All-Star captain again.
All right. Well, I think Giannis is going to be All-Star captain again anyway at this point with what's going on there. But I think that, is there anything else to talk about? The 2021.
Enjoy it. Yeah. Reminisce.
Yeah.
Be happy.
I've got one more quote. It's from Ti Windisch.
Oh boy.
No, I'm joking.
I'm
joking.
Oh. I will say actually one last thing before we hand over to Rohan for the outro. If you've got a favorite moment, please share it with us wherever you want to. We've got our Discord, of course. You can get in there, gspn.info. I won't do all the plugs, Rohan, don't worry. But wherever you communicate with us, I know there's all sorts of places. Share your favorite. I think that'd be cool, too, if we hear everybody else's favorite moments, best memories to celebrate this, because we should. I mean, we should do it up. The Bucks don't win a championship every year. Milwaukee doesn't win one basically wins one every 5 decades so far. So let's enjoy this.
Can I do a plug here?
Yes, please do.
Yes.
Jordan and I did, we did 5-6 episodes of a Fans of the Champ series where we just got some people we know from talking Buck stuff over the years. We got them on the pod and we got them to talk about their own personal experience and feeling of it, how they watched the games, what were the moments for them, the journeys of their Bucks fandom. And honestly, we planned to do some more, and it didn't quite just come together for us. But they were so much fun. It was so cool listening to people talk about that. So if you didn't check them out, they're on the GSPN feed. You've got a bit of scrolling back to do, but it's the off season now. If you want to do some more reminiscing, particularly this week of all weeks about the Bucks winning a championship, go back, check out our winning 6 episodes. Fans of the champs. There's a lot of really good stuff in there.
For sure. Make sure you check out everything. gspn.info. Like you said, Ty, you can find everything there. Podcast platform if you're watching on YouTube. The YouTube if you're doing podcast platform. Do both. Cook the books. Do that. Make sure you leave a 5-star rating and review wherever you can. Make sure you like, subscribe, wherever you're consuming this content. But yes, make sure you do send us however you want to. Send us your favorite moments. We'd love to reminisce with you because at the end of it, these are happy things. This is why we're going back to it. People should be happy. I feel like that's a good thing. Enjoy your life. Do that. How about that? Hopefully we can be a part of that too. Pod random, and we will talk to you next time.